Well, Councilman, I thank you for coming back again. I tell you what, it's a little bit like chewing cotton. The more you chew it, the bigger it gets, and just and. But working on the budget, we're kind of in an off week. We completed last week, or Elton, the city manager, completed his budget. You know, he went over all that, brought all the department heads forward. We asked some very specific questions, and I got to tell you, I mean, just offhand, I thought it was a pretty good attempt. I mean, that was a really good attempt to get the budget in line with where we needed to be based on our tax revenues. I'm working off memory here a little bit, but I believe if we go with this budget, make no alterations, it generates adds about $3.5 million to fund balance as presented. I think there's some other opportunities to save in there. Some things that, not taken into consideration, like, vacancy rate in employees. So just for folks to understand, we're assuming that the FTEs that we're putting in this budget are going to be there 100% of the time, and they're never going to turn over. And our turnover rate's somewhere around 15 to 20%. So I think I'm working off memory here,
Right.
but that creates a little additional monies. And there are several other little places where there's a real conservatism factor in place. We include, I believe, 95% collection rate, and our experience is actually closer to 98, 99 over an extended, over a period of time. So, that's another conservatism factor.
Right.
And you shake all that together, and it's probably a little bit more than $3.5 million. But anyway, I think that's good. I feel like, as I look at the budget, and I haven't really had a chance to scrub it. That's one of the things that I plan to do this week going into next week's conversations.
Right.
I feel like it's a good, solid attempt that we can build off of it. What were your thoughts?
Well, I'm, certainly appreciate the detail that we've received on this budget. And it seems like we're going to, even though we're working on this later than we have previously, I think we're going through it a little more thoroughly. We've spent 2 solid days just having discussion, which is, from my recollection, more than we've done in the past. Certainly our FTEs are lower than what they were. And to expand on what you were talking about with that, in our 26 revised budget, we had 1,027 FTEs. In the proposed budget, it's a reduction of 58 FTEs, which is significant because there was a big jump from previous years. And one thing that I think this council, or many of us on the council, I think we're pushing for more consolidation of departments.
Right.
Which, some view might not be a savings, but I think when you look at the overall over a period of time, I think it could be a savings. So, but to answer your question, I think overall there's some reductions there, and there's opportunities to do some more.
Well, let's drill down a little bit on that. We'll call it department consolidation. And really what you mean is to bring things that would fit under, finance, and reduce some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The flat line org chart to something that's a little bit more narrow, which is pretty common practice. I think it looks on the surface basically budget neutral.
Right.
But it's important to note the efficiencies that you gain when you have a different reporting structure, and if revenues tied to expenses, tied to collections, the impact that has in the decision-making cycle really is infinitely better. Now, it's going to be hard to quantify. Does that save 2 cents? Does it save 20 cents? I don't know, but I know intuitively on my own experience, the efficiency that you gain is worth a lot. It's worth something, and it's hard to quantify.
Well, there's, the struggles we've had with our finances.
Right.
A lot of it is surrounding staffing.
Sure.
We lost a lot of staff over the years, but one problem we've had is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. Right. And I think that's, to your point, efficiencies would be something gained if we started consolidating some stuff. Not looking at removing FTE, so to speak, but just looking for the efficiencies
Right.
within that. And so,
right. We probably shouldn't speak a whole lot of that. Some of those are personnel matters
Right.
and we did go in a closed session about it, but anyway, there's movement afoot that you may not see on the surface. And
Right.
I think it's important for folks to understand that.
Right.
So kind of where we left it, and we can go back over a generic review
Right.
of that if you want to, but where we left it is that we're going to come back and we're going to put up on a board what people want to add or what they want to take away.
Right.
And if I want to add something, I got to figure out how I'm going to find the money for it. So that means I got to either reduce expenses or propose to reduce expenses, or I've got to increase revenue, which ultimately means tax dollars.
Correct.
So, and there's a small list. I'm hearing a little bit, but I wasn't hearing a whole lot. But what are you hearing? What are your thoughts on that? Are there any additional savings that you see in here that perhaps we ought to be discussing? I mean, and all this will be discussed next week, and it'll ultimately be voted on. I think it's scheduled for like sort of end of June, and June 20th time frame or something like that. Public hearing will be June 8th.
Well, the easiest things are cutting our expenses, which the city manager has certainly cut our expenses. One of the things that we were talking about is some of the revenue generators. One being the event center.
Right.
That's where we need to focus a lot of efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we were more efficient over there at the event center, it would subtract from the cash flow leaving the city.
Right.
And I think it could be done if we look at it differently. And that's one area I hope that the city manager and staff focus on even after we pass the budget, because we can go through a revised budget if we see the expenses are being reduced over there, which I feel like can be done. Some other things that we're focusing on in the current budget that has to be done is obviously the property that we purchased out there off of Sunset and Old Carriage, and we do have a debt payment coming up. But I think and you might want to speak on it more than me. I think there's a lot of interest over there, and I think there's a high likelihood that we might be able to sell all or some of the property.
Ton of interest on it. What I've told folks, because everybody believes, oh my God, it's going to be a data center. And I just want to tell folks is, look, we got 4 LOIs that I know of.
Explain LOI for those that don't.
Letter of intent. And what that means is I want to purchase that property. And so I write a letter. It says, it is my intention to buy this land from you at X price. And I'll take it down and, whatever criterion. I mean, I'll take it down in 3 parts. I'll take it down in 1 part, or I'll write it all at once. I need to do diligence over some period of time. I will close by a date certain. And that's usually what a letter of intent means. So it's not worth the paper it's written on, but it is. I mean, it's anybody who's reputable doesn't just throw out an LOI because it's a big part of their reputation. So we have at least 4 that I know of, and they represent everything from some people who have proposed a data center to mixed use to residential to bits and pieces and parts. And I've not seen them all. Council hasn't seen them. There's been no discussion over it. I will say that the prices that I have generically seen, and again, not all of them come to me. A lot of them have gone to the city manager, and I'm just assuming that as soon as we get through with this budget, we'll bring each one of those people in and discuss, what their offer really means. And if it's something council desires to go down that road, then we'll go down that road, and if not, then we won't. But the take home was really this. There's a lot of interest on that property. So we didn't just buy it, and it's not just sitting there and somebody's saying, oh my God, it's lost leader. We're never going to get any money out of it. It's simply, based on what I'm seeing, not true at all, not even close to true. And we've got to decide what direction we want to go with it, and we've got to decide what the terms need to be. And then we need to go about doing it, you know, and I'm very excited by that. And I believe that what happens on that piece of land will have tremendous impact on the city of Rocky Mount for the next 50 years. So, and I'll even say this, knowing now what I know about where we are in the cash position, I believe firmly that we should have done it. I would have done it then, even knowing where we are going to be today. We didn't have that clarity in that day. But we've consolidated. We'll have a chance to speak on what's going to happen to it over the next course of decades for us. And by consolidating that, we have doubled, if not tripled, the value of the land, and that's something that's very exciting as well.
Right. And the reason that's important to the budget is because, as soon as we can liquidate that property, provided it's in the best interest of the citizens of Rocky Mount, that will help the budget out moving forward. But we can't hold our hat on that and depend on that being done. So we have to assume that we have a big debt payment coming
well, and so let's break that down. So the carry cost, what I mean by that, interest, we finance this interest only for the first 2 years, year and a half, 2.5 years. And that's about $800,000 a year. We will term that out, which means that we will pay principal and interest on the land. And then that $800,000 moves to about $1.4 to $1.5 million in perpetuity until the debt's been paid off. We put $5 million down. It was a $17 million purchase. There's some closing costs in there, so the numbers aren't going to bounce perfectly when you look at them. But and so we owe money on approximately $12 million. So if we were to sell it for the same, we would recoup $5 million and reduce the expenses that we have been experiencing by about $800,000. And once it becomes termed out at the end of this year, I believe, then we will save that $1.5 million lag on our expenses.
Right.
So, and I want to caution people about thinking about it that way. I mean, look at, we've bought it. When it becomes part of the tax base, we've doubled or tripled it. We'll have utility customers. It'll be a huge net gain for us.
Right.
The timing of this, though, couldn't have been any worse.
It couldn't have been any worse.
It could not have been any
but
worse.
I say that because that falls in the mayor and council budget. Our budget's over, and the main reason we're over on our budget is because of that interest.
Yeah.
But if you take that out, we're actually down in the budget. And then if you go to the city manager budget, he's reducing his staff. It's almost $1 million reduction there. If you go to technology services, there's an increase, and a significant increase. But one of the things we need to improve our finance software, and it needs our budget and our general operations need to work together. So we're working on some software there, and that's one of the big factors, if I recall correctly. Was there anything else in that was
no? But I want to go back to the mayor and council budget. I mean,
I'm sorry.
because that number is just so big, right? You look at it, you go, "Oh my God!"
Right, you do.
And I do.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, well, I know that we get paid. I mean, what is it, $15,000, $16,000, whatever it is, a year, and then we pay for the city clerk and her staff. Are they a part of our budget?
No, they're a separate part of the budget.
So then it's just a combination of different debt service, debt instruments that the council and mayor may or may not have had anything to do with. It's sort of a catch-all bucket. Right. But anyway, I just want to point that out because it's kind of scary looking when you say, what are we showing here? We're showing fiscal 27, $4.2 million if you round up. Right. An increase of 67% over prior year. And that's because of debt service.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's an increase, but I think hopefully soon we won't realize that, but we do have to pass the budget based on that assumption.
That's right.
So
to your point, if you look at controllables and levers that we haven't been able to cut, one is the debt service, but we're working on that, and that will resolve. And I want to caution people too. Look, it's not going to be 30 days. Right. I mean, we work a deal with somebody. It'll probably be a diligence period of at least 6 months before you see any kind of check. So, in a year and a half before you see dirt moved around, it's not. Right. It's not going to be immediate. So I don't want folks to think after this discussion, oh, well, you said. Right. That's not true. The other big lever is the event center because it is losing $1.5 million on operations, and that's independent of debt service. That's what you told. That's I understood. Is that not right? Let's go over that again because I get confused on this one.
Total between debt service is $3 million. So we knew every year that we have about $3 million.
That's right.
In debt service, and then right now it's about $4 million that we have on the operations that we're losing over there.
So $7 million in total, or $4 in total? I think it's $4 in total.
Yeah, but it is,
which means that we're losing about $1 million on operations,
right?
$1.5 million.
If I had it, I would pull
independent
it
of debt service. No, and these are ish, right?
Right.
Until we pass the budget, there really isn't a budget. I think all we could talk about today are kind of those headlines, where we are, where the trajectory is, and the thing that I think you were headed to. Maybe I cut you off, and I'm sorry. The administrative overhead, I call it, or administrative fees. The manager presented something that he had streamlined that significantly. I mean, like to the tune of $9 million. Am I remembering that right? $10 million. I mean, to the point when you look at the utility funds, it would have Senate Bill 1076 would have a nominal effect based on the work that he did. It was a significant reduction. I think it's $9 million. I'd be willing to state.
You talking about in the enterprise funds?
Enterprise funds as well as just in general, because we all take administrative expense. I mean, even city council and mayor do. Every department does.
Right. I wish I had all my notes here.
Well,
I do better with notes.
Well, the problem is the notes are so daggone copious that it's hard to even track that. But I think what we can safely say is that this is a much improved budget. It had much greater detail. It has allowed us the flexibility and opportunity to really question line items.
Right.
And just because we may not have done that in that session doesn't mean that we are not scrubbing these on a line for line basis. And everybody's going to come back with what they believe adjustments should be. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think adjustments should be? Have you put enough thought into that to be able to say that publicly, or is that
you're talking about adjustments down?
Adjustments in the budget one way or the other, up or down, and just where you see if there's any opportunity to save additional dollars?
Well, I certainly see. I think that the manager's done a good job. Right. And so it's going to be difficult until we get our footing back under, because a lot of the services have been cut. A lot of, in our enterprise funds, which are our utilities, we have a lot of deferred maintenance. So it is, I think he's done a good job. The efficiencies I see are again, about what we mentioned earlier, are some consolidations, and I think it's going to be like a net neutral almost there. But going back to the event center, I just actually just found my notes going back to 2019 all the way up to 2024. We're waiting on in the 25 numbers, but in 24 actual numbers lost, not including the debt service, was right at $4 million, and 23 was $3 million. And I think we're averaging right around $4 million in total loss. Right. If I recall correctly, but I don't have the 25, and we're still working on the 26 numbers. That's right. So,
the one thing I'm going to say about that, I'll just say it. I mean, I've been disappointed to see that it has not had the impact of folks starting up little pop-up shops or other businesses around the event center. Right. And I think the market's there. I really do. I mean, I'm not particularly interested in opening a little bit, I'm not interested in doing that, but it seems like there's a real opportunity. You got 7,000, 8,000 people in any given weekend, certainly at least open up when they're available, when they're around.
Well, I agree with you, because there's been a lot of money invested. And I think, the other thing is,
and it is bringing people to town. So I don't want to say it's an absolute failure, because I don't believe that at all. But we got to manage through some challenges here for sure.
Right. And that was the argument that a lot of people make, and I agree that it brings a lot of people. But you've got to figure, okay, what are we offsetting in sales tax receipts and the tax that we charge on the rooms and so forth. Right. So, but we're pregnant.
So we've had the baby. I mean, we're going to raise this thing now.
We're pregnant, and the baby. We've had the baby, so we got to make it work.
That's right.
And so we've got to figure out a way. And part of that way, some great discussion came up about the businesses requiring, especially the businesses that get stuff from the city, requiring them to stay open. Sure. During the event center times, and maybe having a better communication between the event center staff and the businesses. But that was the main driver. Was to bring more, to improve downtown and bring more people to downtown. Sure. So I think it can be done. We just have to look at it differently, and we have to tighten up the operations over there at the event center. How that's done, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But
and I don't know. I don't know that I can speak to the operations there. You know, whether my guess is it probably needs to be more revenue in terms of more events, and that the staffing is probably what it is. But I really honestly don't know that.
Right.
But I can say I haven't seen the businesses open, and that's a little bit of a disappointment. And I still think there's an opportunity there. So if you're listening and you're entrepreneurial and you want something that's almost a weekend kind of side hustle, I think there's some opportunity in creating an ice cream store or some sort of bar or something. Because I know me, when, you know, my daughter PJ was a travel volleyball thing, we used to go around, and I mean, I'd spend weekends in, you know, all these types of places. And the coach doesn't want you around with your team, you know, but if you're not there, you're a bad parent. And I mean, what I would have honestly paid to have a place to go and drink a beer and watch a basketball game, I can't. I mean, it would have been a lot.
Because you had a lot of downtime.
A lot of downtime.
You know, one of our, you know, we mentioned the enterprise funds, and we are having some deferred maintenance there, which in future budgets we'll have to address. So, you know, to me, that's an important part that we have to maintain. And then also our public safety. We've had, you know, the reductions in those budgets for both police and fire, but some of that is on positions and
equipment. We were funding a lot of cool stuff for the police department in the day and back when we thought we had money. Yeah. And I think that has gone down, and so it's now kind of, I should say, you know, basic blocking and tackling. But I think that's what you see in the budget. Yeah. We still have cool toys and some you know, neat things.
Well, they're not toys; they're actually tools to help fight crime.
No, they are, and they're working, and it's been very effective. You know, stuff like shot spotters and stuff like you know, the technology, what is it called, fuses, to be able to pull all the cameras together, and commercial centers, and so those are big deal, and they have really been effective in helping you know, fight crime for sure, no doubt about it.
And in our fire department, you know, there have been some reductions there, but, you know, the big thing we have in the fire department, and one of the reasons we ended up where we were, was COVID. We had to pay cash for things. And so we're getting fire trucks. We're not too far behind on those.
I was kind of surprised to learn that we haven't gotten delivery on some of those.
Right. We're still waiting on delivery. We've spent the money. The money's gone. And we're still waiting on delivery. And I just was surprised at that. I thought that we had received everything by now, but anyway. Well, you're looking, I forgot what the time frame was, but it was an extensive time frame, obviously. So, but we're going to meet back. I'm going to look back at the budget because we're meeting next week. We just finished Memorial Day.
That's right.
And so we go back.
I think it's next Wednesday. I'm working off the memory. I think it's noon.
Could be.
I think it is noon because Elton has some meetings first thing in the morning. But anyway, noon on Wednesday. I think we're prepared to go for 3-4 hours, and then if need be, carry over on Thursday starting at 10. And I may have that backwards, but, you know, look for the legal notices. Kim, our city clerk, will have that, you know, published as it should be. But in that, you know, since the manager's presented his budget, Councilman will come in and they'll say, okay, well, I think we need to add, I don't know, fireworks, let's just say. Then the question is, how do you propose that we pay for it?
Well,
and I'm excited about that. I think that's going to create a fiscal discipline that we've never had in these conversations since you and I have been elected. We got elected at the same time. So, I mean, this is new.
We're going back to, and I remember this, Chief Moore was talking about the fire department and some areas that he could use if we could find the money, and 2 of them were battalion cars, chief Suburbans, and then some tackle equipment for the life safety.
Right.
And I think it was about $250,000.
I remember that. That sounds right.
So hopefully we can maybe make a cut in either another department or find some money, some savings somewhere, so we can fund that for the fire department. Because again, for me, and I think for most of the council, and I'm feel confident for you, life and safety is extremely important. And if we can't fund them, it's not that we can't do it. It's just a lot of that equipment. I think he said 16 years on the trucks, and that's probably has a lot of miles on there.
I know. Well, I see the 3 basic areas to find money and or opportunity for us are with the 336 acres. And look, we also have a lot of surplus land in the city, and I think we need to come up with some way to generate appraisals and a bidding process that we can begin to divest that, whether it looks like a sealed bid thing where we accept with a minimum bid,
right?
Or I think that's probably the way to go. I mean, otherwise the upset bid just goes forever, and it costs us to do that. I think 336 we've discussed. I believe that will be sold. I'm confident that'll be sold in the next 2 years. I'm confident that will happen. And then we just need to budget and plan on what that needs to look like. Also, the event center, is there a way to tighten it up, or does it look like, trying to figure out how to increase revenues? It may cost us a little something to figure out how to do that.
Right.
But I think that's a real discussion that we need to entail. And then the third item was actually public transportation. The Tar River Transit was losing a fairly significant amount of money. I think we lost more than we should have relative to some grant opportunities that we didn't seize in time. But that still represents, even if we collected all those, $1 million+ loss. Right. And that's not as easy as just trimming it either, because there's so many other grants. Powell dollars are tied to that. I mean, there's so many things that impacts. It's not sitting in a silo.
Right. And you can't really cut a service, because even if you can find efficiencies there, you have to have approval first from the feds, because they fund a lot of it.
That's right.
So it's not, you can't just go in there and with a scalpel and
look, we need it. I mean, people rely on public transportation to get to work and to go to the grocery store and to whatever. And so it's not just, again, nothing's in a silo here, but there may be some opportunity there. And I think we probably ought to scrub it, at least get to the place to say, well, we can't do any better. I don't know.
Well, I think, it's unfortunate we weren't able to capitalize on what you brought to the table several years ago with the micro transit.
Well, I haven't given up on that. We still have that grant out there, still an option. It will require city matching fund of $300,000. With that said, I have no idea where to get that money. And so that's actually what I'm hoping to do this week. I don't know that I'm overly confident in that, but I'm going to certainly give it a good college try.
Right.
But no, I think that as an augmentation, to try to increase, those transportation services, would be meaningful. Because keep in mind, we've got one of the largest unemployments of any metropolitan area in the state.
Right.
And, one of the keys to that is to be able to provide reliable transportation for folks to get from point A to point B.
Right. It's extremely important.
It is. All right. Well, Councilman, we have managed to blow through 28 minutes and we got probably more we could talk about. But I'll tell you what, next week we will certainly have more to talk about.
Right.